Elden Ring isn't only one of the best games ever made, it's one of From Software's best games, rivaling Sekiro and Souls 3. I discuss Elden Ring's accessibility in an article I've linked in the description, but there are a couple more items I'd like to address. Developers always want to show you their massive open world, if you know what I mean. Look, Nintendo says, Breath of the Wild is bigger than Skyrim. Whatever, keep your pride out of Todd's mouth. Breath of the Wild is better than Skyrim for reasons that have nothing to do with world size. These massive photorealistic open worlds have nothing in them apart from identical enemies and identical camps. If you've bought an open world game, then you better like camps. These worlds are full of items you'll never use, and running in a straight line is all you have to do to reach objectives because climbing is so hot right now. There's no climbing in the mountainous world of Elden Ring. At all times, you're either on a plateau or in a canyon. You can use spirit springs to leap supernaturally high, but those are far more sparse than the convenient footholds of early Assassin's Creed games. Spirit springs are also much less tedious than climbing. From Software's placed items in such a way as to direct players toward out-of-the-way paths. Think James Woods in Family Guy's most insufferable episodes. Elden Ring rewards all exploration. What I don't think is much of a spoiler to say is that the mimic chests I had expected to find were gone. That's how much the development team wanted to reward players for exploration. They removed one of their central eccentricities that sets them apart from other developers. While the usual mimics were not in Sekiro, Sekiro was no successor to Dark Souls the way Elden Ring is. I didn't expect to see patches in Sekiro either. Ultimately, this open-world experience feels like a linear one in disguise, due to the way it limits players' mobility. From Software has woven the mind-bending shortcuts of its earlier games into an amazing open world. I expected a good open world, but I didn't expect the best open world. Elden Ring offers at least one of the best open worlds I've ever explored. The catacombs are consistent enough for you to improve at navigating through them, but they're diverse enough to puzzle you. The same goes for recurring bosses. By the way, the bosses are as good as always, but as a veteran, I didn't find them remarkable in comparison to bosses of other From Software games. I didn't care for horse battles, and I hated Melania, if you know who that is, but I'm glad the game forced me to use all of its mechanics in interesting ways. The first playthrough isn't as easy as critics say. In fact, Melania is the hardest boss From Software has ever had the nerve to create. More often than any other boss, she's made me say things I haven't meant, including, I don't even like this game. You don't have to kill her, but I'm an every nook and cranny type of person. The word optional isn't in my vocabulary. When you kill something in a video game, you don't care. It's ones and zeros, it doesn't feel anything, it'll come back to life. Beating Melania after she penetrates you 500 times feels like killing someone. You'll need to give everything you have to kill her, she's a goddess. You'll need to wear the heaviest armor and accept fat rolling. You'll need to have the perfect gear, stats, consumables, and summonables. Finally, you'll have the strength to kill her. The fight is like smothering someone with a pillow. You killed her, she's dead. You won't see her until the next playthrough, and even then it won't be the same. She could pulp any other boss in the game, but not you. If you play Elden Ring, I imagine you'll exhibit some inclination to fight Melania, and the experience will change you. Then you'll move on to New Game Plus, as usual. Speaking of which, my second playthrough was so easy, and I thought that was crazy as I considered how difficult my first playthrough had been. When I beat my first playthrough, Steam said I had logged 126 hours. By the time my second playthrough was complete, I'd logged 150 hours. The challenge doesn't disappear. It changes from can I beat this to how quickly can I beat this, and how much more thorough can I be as I clear the map. Instead of continuing to sodomize you in subsequent playthroughs, the game acknowledges that you've become the Elden Lord, who wields supernatural runic power. Half the stats regard magic, so all builds eventually branch out into visible manifestations of godlike ability. Anyone who beats Elden Ring once is an Elden Ring master, a king, queen, or sovereign who's earned the right to decide the fate of the world's inhabitants. Check it out. It's $60, and it's worth $80.